when you have a game like you did against the Giants, where you just have trouble running the ball, I know some of it was situational to the game, some of it was just couldn't move it. But do you, look at doing something different, schematically, concept-wise, play calling-wise, or you just more try to do what you do better?
Right. It's funny because we did get a little bit off schedule. When you look at it, really, our first 38 plays, we kind of were able to maintain that balance that we want, where we had 20 passes and 18 runs, and that was including third downs where you're obviously more inclined to throw the football. And we were more efficient than what we thought. I think the key thing to remember, as we're getting through the course of a game is even if we're only getting 3 or 4 yards, those calls get you on track to where you're in those third and manageables. And I thought we actually were more efficient in the run than it probably felt like. Then by the time we have 38 plays, once we have our second turnover, we end up having to get into a 2-minute mode, and really half of our plays ended up being where you're a majority passing in a 2-minute situation. So I think it's analyzing each week, but when we are able to stay on schedule like we were those first 2 weeks, run the football and have your actions tie off of that, that's an ideal situation to be in for us.
Sean, what makes the Eagles so good against the run? Their numbers maybe not as good as the Giants were, but it's pretty comparable. And what do they do differently? What challenges do they present to you guys as a run?
They've got a great front, and what they do is they do a lot of movement. Coach Davis does an excellent job mixing up their alignments, some different things, and they run a lot of movement internally that ends up messing with a lot of your combinations, especially in the zone game, and they've got some special players inside. Fletcher Cox is a guy that's a really good player. You notice Barwin. They've got a handful of guys and inside linebackers that can run, so I think it's a credit to both the scheme and the players that they have, why they're so efficient at defending the run.
Sometimes have to live with the 0 1-yard carries, knowing that just to stay committed to it, and that if you pop one, it might go for 28 like Alf had last year.
Absolutely. That's always something that you want to remind yourself is stay patient, stay committed to that. Our linemen have done an excellent job up front handling the different fronts and things in these first 3 weeks that we've seen, and that's been something that has been a strength when we're able to stay on schedule. So that would be ideal, and you got to consistently remind yourself of that for sure.
Sean, Kirk had one of his best games of his career in Philadelphia last year. There's been a lot of turnover on the defensive side of the ball for them in terms of starters and stuff. But is there anything that maybe he can take from that game? I mean, I know it was a full year ago that can help him confidence-wise coming into this game.
Absolutely. When you're able to, any time that you prepare for a game and it's against an opponent that you see on a regular basis twice a year, we're watching that film a lot. So I think anytime you see yourself have success and do some good things, it gives you confidence. I think one of the big things that was very beneficial for us is we created a lot of big plays in that game. You hit an 80-plus yarder to Deshaun. Roy Halou goes for 50-plus on a screen. We hit a 35-plus yard pass to Niles Paul. So those are the things that we're looking to do, is to be able to create some bigger plays so you don't feel like it's got to be 10 to 12 to 15-yard drives every single time, because defenses are so good and your margin for error is so limited when you're not able to create some of those explosives.
Sean, regarding your left guard spot, I believe Jay has said Spencer has a leg up. I don't think he's sort of committed. Can you tell us if he's going to start? And I guess regardless whether it's Sean, Spencer or Ari, what's the challenge there for you?
I believe that whatever Jay said is exactly what we're going to follow through with. No, those guys have done a good job. Yeah, he said I would tell you guys. No, it's, we feel very confident in Spencer and Ari. Those guys have rotated reps, and I think it's something that we'll see based on once we get to Sunday who we feel gives us the best chance to compete and play at a high level. But it's a great challenge. Like we mentioned earlier, they've got a bunch of players that they rotate inside. They move Cox back and forth. Thornton's been an active player. So whoever it is that ends up playing has a great challenge against a very strong front. So we'll see how those guys do on Sunday. Absolutely. It ends up being a big challenge because anytime you lose a guy like Sean Laval, Trent's very comfortable in combination with him. So is Corey. So you bring somebody new into the mix. That's why you look at how important all 5 of those guys being able to play together are to be able to develop that continuity and that rapport with each other. We're hoping that the reps that they got this week will allow Spencer or Ari to step in and allow them to feel comfortable. But it's certainly tough to replace a veteran player like Sean, who those guys have a lot of experience playing with.
I just want to get your thoughts on Quentin Dunbar. Obviously makes the switch to cornerback. What were your thoughts before that switch as a wide receiver, and what has he done out in practice? I know you're focusing on the offense, but what does he look like from the cornerback position after making the switch.
Yeah, what an impressive thing and story that is. He comes in as a receiver, down the line guy, has great speed. He's still raw at the position. Then you end up transitioning him over to corner, and you can immediately see the length and the natural skills that he had. And he's a real confident kid. He's got a great demeanor about himself. So he's one of those guys that always disrupts our practices with his ability to get hands on the receivers, disrupt releases, and he's got, you know, that length where he can turn and run, and he's fluid in transition. So been very impressed with him. That transition is not a normal thing by any stretch, but all I've seen him do is continue to get better and better as he's played DB, and really happy for him. Okay, guys. Thanks. About that? Absolutely.
How much does the weather affect what you guys are trying to do, or is kind of the game plan for you, or do
Right.
do you adjust based on what you kind of see you're going to see on Sunday?
Yeah, I think you always have to be ready to adjust to the elements. If it is going to be one of those games where it's extremely rainy, you obviously have to be smart with when you do throw the football and looking for some high percentage plays. But that's one of those deals that you always have a contingency plan in place. And the weather, to me, I look on it 1 second, and then the next second it tells me a totally different thing. So we've got to be ready for a couple different scenarios that could play out. Thanks, guys.